Hello everyone, it's Milkerjan. Today I am going to read S6 6027 Arthur Rocks with Binky. Chapter 1. How long has it been? Buster asked. He was standing in front of the Elwood City Civic Auditorium. He was not alone. Hundreds and hundreds of people were standing there with him. Among them were the Brain, Brunella, Rubella, Francine, and Francis' mother, Mrs. Fransky. We arrived at 11:05, said the Brain. It is now 1:23. That's 138 minutes. Or in second, it is. We got the picture, said Francine. It's been a long time. They were all waiting in line for Binky tickets to go on sale. Binky was the hardest rock group to break out in weeks. There were Binky reposters, Binky buttons, even Binky toothbrushes. One radio station was planning a weekend where the songs would be all Binky all the time. Francis' mother looked toward the head of the line. We are pretty far back, she said. I hope we can get tickets. Don't worry, Mom, said Francine. The Brain has it all figured out. He does? The Brain nodded. This auditorium seats 7,025 people. He glanced at the line in front of him. I would say there are perhaps 350 people ahead of us. So that leaves 6,675 seats free. It's amazing how you can do all that figuring without a calculator. I guess they don't call you the Brain for nothing. Rubella was just sitting on the sidewalk, looking at some papers covered with drawing. It is not just getting tickets that's important, she said, looking up. It's getting the right tickets. What does it mean? Asked Buster. He was nervous about enough already. Rubella pointed to her papers, a cast astrological chart for each of us. Why? Asked Buster. So we'll know where to sit. According to my calculation, we should avoid rows K, O, and LL. What difference will it make what row we are in? Asked Prunella. Because we want to increase our chances of catching stuff the group may throw into the crowd, said Francine. Brain looked down at Rubella's drawing. I don't believe there is a scientific basis to support your approach. Rubella just smiled at him. It can't hurt, she said. None of this is going to help Arthur if he doesn't get here soon, said Francine. His mom was supposed to drop him off. She looked at her watch, but that was a while ago. Buster shook his head. He's never going to get good tickets at this rate. Can we just buy a ticket for him? Asked Prunella. I'm sure he'll pay us back later. It's not allowed, said Francine's mother. The newspaper ads were very clear. Because of the great demand for Binky tickets, only one ticket will be sold per customer, and we can't hold a place for him in line either. Then he's making a big mistake, said Prunella. This is one of the most important events of the century. Rubella did some quick calculations on her chart. Arthur has Neptune in Capricorn, she said. Is that bad? As Francine. Rubella nodded. Binky wise, he is doomed. Chapter 2. Arthur was not happy. He paced back and forth in the shoe store, dragging his feet on the carpet. Arthur stopped and said to his mother, You're going to wear out your new sneakers before you even get out the door. Arthur turned toward her and folded his arm. Mom, it took me 2 minutes to pick these out. 120 seconds I came. I bought. He frowned. What is DW's problem? Mrs. Reed sighed. Your sister can be very particular about things. I heard that, said DW. Was sitting next to a giant pile of shoeboxes. Salesman was wiping his brow while she looked at another pair of sneakers. These glow in the dark, DW explained. That could be very handy. When, said Arthur. You never know, she insisted. Expect the unexpected, I always say. She looked down. It's so hard to decide. The pink high tops are also nice. Oh, and I don't want to forget the Princess Power moccasins. She poked the salesman. If I missed anything, salesman took a deep breath. I think you have tried on everything we have in your size. Come on, DW, said Arthur. Make up your mind. You do have one to make up, don't you? Very funny. DW wriggled her toes. Do you feel pretty good? She smiled at her big brother. Your problem, Arthur, is that you don't care how you look? The problem is that you don't care how you look. Arthur rolled his eyes. DW? They are just sneakers. Oh, and I suppose the bionic bunny cars you were buying last week were just little pieces of cardboard. That was different, said Arthur. The bionic bunny is important. There are collectors all over the country. Some of the cars might be worth a lot of money someday. You need to plan ahead. I always plan ahead except when I don't, said DW. You took forever then, and I had to wait for you. DW reached for another pair of shoes. So now you can wait for me. It was another 5 minutes before she finally made a choice. After Mrs. Reed paid the bill, the salesman managed a small wave goodbye. When they got to the car, Arthur opened the door for his mother. Such a gentleman, she said. DW laughed. He's just trying to save time. Arthur ran around the other side of the car and got in. I thought they were going to start charging us rent, he said, putting on his seatbelt. Let's hurry, Mom. As they drove toward the civic auditorium, Arthur groaned. Somehow they were hitting every red light in the universe. Put your feet down, DW, said Mrs. Reed. Then I can't see my new sneakers as well. Never mind that it's not safe. As the auditorium came into view, Arthur gasped. I knew it. There is a line. He pressed his face against the glass. That's not a line. That's a whole town. Where is the end of it? Anyway, that's what Arthur wanted to know. The line seemed to go on forever. Chapter 3. Later that afternoon, everyone was comparing the binky tickets at the Sugar Bowl. Our seats are all in the front section, said Buster. Where's yours, Arthur? Arthur took out his ticket, row ZZZ. The other kids all exchanged a look. You'll need oxygen up there, said Francine. Do you have binocular? Said the brain. Or maybe a telescope. Arthur just sighed. Francine looked up at a group photo of Binky on the wall behind them. Wouldn't it be great to meet Binky? Said Francine. Not just a handshake. Really meet them. We're just kids, said Arthur. They probably wouldn't even notice us. Maybe not by ourselves, said Buster. But what if we were with our parents? After all, they are bigger. They stand out more. Buster was in his living room, serving snacks to Bjorn, Inga, Nero, and Kyra, the members of the group Binky. Cheese curl, here for. Thanks, said Kyra. Thanks, Mrs. Baxter repeated. She was taking down every word of this historic moment. How about a picture? Asked Buster. He took out a camera and aimed it at the group. Everyone smiled. Click. Perfect, said Buster. Just perfect? What is perfect? Asked Francine. Having a picture of a Binky taken in your own home. That'd be nice, I suppose, said Francine. But I know what I like even more. The Bjorn, Inga, and Nero was standing outside the civic auditorium. Kyra rushed out to them. My priceless sapphire necklace, she cried. I think it fell in the trash. Call the police, said the Bjorn. Call the newspaper, said Inga. Call for room service, said Nero. The others looked at him strangely. Hey, don't blame me, he said. This is Francine's daydream. And look, here she comes now. They turned to see Mr. Francisci's garbage truck speeding up the street. Francine was standing on top, holding up the sapphire necklace. Truck screeched to a halt in front of the group, and Francine climbed down. I believe you lost this, Francine said to Kyra. My dad found it in the trash and showed it to me. I recognized it right away because you were wearing it last week in that TV interview. Kyra gave her a big hug. Whatever can we do to repay you, she asked. Oh, said Francine, I'm sure we can think of something. Have you ever noticed that groups with 5 members are even more successful than groups with 4? Numbers make a difference. Francine said aloud, they certainly do. The brain agreed. The Binky's manager opened the door to the biggest office in Binky World headquarters. We're number 1 again, he announced. The brain swiveled in his big leather chair. Yeah, everything is going according to my plan. It's amazing how you figured this out, said Binky's manager. It was our lucky day when your parents recommended you to me. I mean, I thought we were big before, but your calculations have made us huge. Thank you, said the brain. I can't say it was nothing. because, well, actually, it was something. And to show our appreciation, we're thinking of renaming renaming the band after you, said the manager. The Brain smiled. The band called The Brain. It had a nice ring to it. You all have the strangest smiles on your faces, said Arthur. What are you thinking about? Nothing, said Buster. It is not important, said Francine. Hardly worth mentioning, said the Brain, but they kept on smiling anyway. Chapter 4. All the way home, Arthur thought about the upcoming concert. He could tell that his friends were excited about it. He wanted to be excited too, but with a seat in row ZZZ, excitement seemed as far away as the stage itself. Nobody at home seemed to realize what a disaster was at hand. Arthur's mother was working on tax returns. His father was making noise in the garage. Kate was taking a nap, and D.W. was watching TV. Arthur could understand about Kate. After all, she was just a baby, but the rest of the family should have been paying attention. This was a crisis. He needed the help. Arthur wandered into the living room and sat down next to D.W. She didn't answer. It's not fair, he said again, this time a little louder. D.W. kept watching the TV. I said it's not fair, Arthur shouted. D.W. turned to him. I heard you, she said. I was just hoping that if I didn't answer, you'd be quiet. How can I be quiet when catastrophe is near? How can I watch my show when you keep talking? D.W. growled. It's just a sweet kitten's hour, said Arthur. It's not important. Oh, really? Like Binky is such a big deal? Binky is the best, if you say so, but right now, I'm in the middle of the show. Can you wait for the commercial? Arthur let out a deep breath. No, I can't wait. Well, then go bother Mom. She's just working. Arthur got up. That's the only good idea you have had today, he said. He walked into the dining room and watched his mother from the doorway. She was reading some papers. Every so often she took a pencil from behind the ear and scribbled a correction. As Arthur watched his mother at work, he was tapped on the shoulder. Excuse me, said the voice. Arthur couldn't believe his eyes. Members of a Binky were waiting to get past him. Sorry, he said. Moving aside, the group approached his mother. She didn't seem surprised. In fact, she looked like she had been expecting them. Well, said Mrs. Reed, I have good news and bad news. What's the good news? Asked Bjorn. She smiled. Binky is a very successful group. And the bad news? Asked Inga. You owe $1 billion in taxes. Sighing deeply, the group shuffled toward the door. Passing Arthur, who was holding out a pen. Could I have an autograph? He asked. Bjorn sighed. Not unless you got $1 billion to pay for it. Can I help you with something, honey? Arthur blinked. His mother was just staring at him. I think you've done enough, he said. My city is terrible. My friends will all meet Binky, and then before I get the chance, you'll scare them back to Finland. Mrs. Reed looked confused. I will? But before she could ask any more questions, Arthur bolted from the room. Chapter 5. When Arthur got to class the next morning, he found Buster, Francine, the Brain deep in conversation. Arthur couldn't help noticing that they were not smiling the way they had been the day before. What is the matter? Asked Arthur. Francine sighed. We have all been trying to think of a way to meet Binky, she said. My dad explained that even though he does collect garbage, he couldn't get near their trash. And I was sure my mom would want to interview them for the newspaper, said Buster. But she said the entertainment reporter will do that. I'm still hoping to think of something, said the Brain, but so far, the situation has resisted my best efforts. Now, we are just like the other 7,025 kids at the concert, said Francine. Buster was thinking. Yeah, we are, but that means we still have a chance. After all, we could be the ones they call out of the audience to meet Pinky. Does that really happen? Asked, asked Arthur. Not always, the brain admitted, but it's a statistical possibility. You think so? Said Arthur. He smiled. Then there was hope for him too. They can't pick you, Arthur, the Francine pointed out. Why not? I have a seat too. Of course you do, said Francine, but that's not the problem. What if you were picked? By the time you got to the stage, the concert would be over. On stage, Pinky was playing as the audience cheered. Far in the back, with eagles nesting nearby, Arthur was watching the concert through a giant telescope. The TV entertainment reporter, Tina Peters, was standing next to him with a microphone. We are here with Arthur Reed, she said. He has the worst seat ever for a rock concert. What do you think of that, Arthur? Well, wait, cried Tina, pressing her earpiece. I've just been told that you've been chosen to beat Pinky in person. Congratulations, Arthur. Go on down. Arthur leapt up and ran down the aisle. He ran and ran and ran. When he finally reached the stage, though, it was empty. Francine and Buster were there to meet him. They looked bigger and older, somehow. Then Arthur caught a glimpse of himself, reflected in a mirror. He looked bigger and older, too. Where is Pinky? Asked Arthur. They are not here. The concert ended 3 years ago. That's how long it took you to get here from your seat? Buster explained. But I was running as fast as I could, said Arthur. Buster pointed to a wheelbarrow stacked high with paper. Don't worry, he said. We have saved all your homework assignments. Arthur. Arthur looked up. Mr. Rathbone was staring at him. I don't know where you are, Arthur, but if you don't want to be marked absent, we need your mind here as well as your body. Yes, Mr. Rathbone. Arthur hurriedly took his seat. Clearly, he had a bad case of binky on the brain. The problem was he didn't know if there was a cure. The end.